Well, soon you may have to think twice before buying ingredients for your favorite chicken dish. Astral Foods is looking to pass on rising feed prices to the consumer in the coming months. Africa's biggest poultry group says the industry is struggling to cope with costs. Well, broiler feed prices have increased by 17%, but the poultry price increases still won't be enough to cover the rise in feed and other production-related costs. Well, let's chat some more about this now with senior agricultural economist Paul Makube to see what the impact will be on consumers. Paul, a very good morning. Thanks so much for your time. So firstly, passing on rising feed prices to the consumer, that's the plan. Is that the only option here for Astral Foods? Is it acceptable?
Thank you very much for having me. They find themselves between a rock and a hard place. The feed costs have been on the rise. I think, we have seen in the past few months, in fact, since last year, that the prices of raw inputs into the poultry sector, or in fact, generally the livestock sector, which is mainly your feed, which constitute about 70% of the cost of production there. So what has happened is that the increase in the raw inputs actually impacted on the feed inputs into the intensive livestock sector, such as poultry. So definitely there has been an increase in costs, but there has been a corresponding increase in or improvement in the price of the poultry meat. But that does not been at the same pace as the raw feed inputs. So margins have been narrowed as a result. So definitely somebody must absorb that. Otherwise, there's no incentive to actually produce.
All right. So what can we expect as consumers then for chicken lovers? I mean, is it going to be high prices? How much higher and for how long?
Well, at the moment, consumer demand remains resilient, across the meat complex. So it's not only poultry that has, experienced this cost squeeze. All the livestock, the intensive livestock producers are experiencing that. But we've seen that demand remains relatively resilient, and the meat complex remains, relatively solid from a price perspective. And the whole complex have seen an increase in prices across the board, so it's not going to be confined to poultry only. So for the short term, yes, expect consumers to to pay a little bit more, but there's limitation to that upward increase in prices, given the fact that you are likely to see a situation where there's a resistance on the market. Given the current economic conditions that consumers are cash strapped, and the economy is now on a slow pace. Yeah. So that there is a limit to which prices can increase further.
Paul, Astral Foods now
definitely in the short term we are likely to see that situation of price upward pricing.
Okay. Right, higher prices for chicken. All right. Well, Astral Foods saying they've now secured a court order. They're asking government to intervene or help. What can government do in this situation?
It is difficult to prescribe what government can do, given the fact that we are operating in an open economy. Yeah. So you have to look at across the value chain. The intervention has not does not help to be at one point. It has to be across the value chain. So if you look at the value chain, the cost factors are coming from feed. If you look at that feed complex, producers have produced more, so there's nothing wrong. The producers have produced more. The problem is actually on the international market. So we are expecting bumper crops of all the summer crops, maize, soybeans that are ingredients in feed production. So we have bumper crops, and expectations were that we are likely to see some moderation in prices. But due to the higher international prices on the world market, and the fact that we are exposed to the external environment, our local prices of grain, have increased. And we've seen in the past, few years that there has been an accommodation for the sector in terms of production from higher imports by upward adjustment to the tariffs. Okay. But there is a limit that you can go up, or you hurt consumers, but before also you face challenges with the international market.
All right.
So that is the situation with the poultry sector.
All right. Thanks very much. That's a senior agricultural economist, Paul Makube. There. Well, 40